Sorry.
All right. Approval of Commissioners' minutes. Minutes you have before you, April 18th, 2018. Any minutes?
Readiness.
So as to, well, any concerns over my request at the last meeting, I did want to make the board aware, as I improperly probably voted on a resolution that I had stated to abstain from, and I made a mistake and which I notified the board members about 30 minutes afterwards, so I did want to make that known.
Thank you. Commissioner Jiggers, you have something?
Yes, thank you for those comments, Commissioner Morgan. And I would just say this, whenever something like that happens, we are not allowed to change the evidence of the minutes. And so going forward, if you find that position again, Mr. Bland, what you don't do is change the minutes. The minutes stay as they have been adopted, and then the meeting adjourned. And whatever needs to be dealt with, you deal with it in the subsequent meeting. So with that said, the actual recording showed a vote of yes from Commissioner Morgan. And that is how it should be corrected for the existing minutes, and then for the minutes for the this meeting, I can't even remember what the date is now, but anyway, May 16, then it will show his statement of what his intent was.
Was the minutes different?
Yes, you said he abstained, and he did not.
Oh, it may have been a error or typo, or maybe at that moment I changed it but didn't change it back or something like that. But I didn't mean for it to be that way. Because
Well, that's why I'm bringing it to our attention, because we don't want staff to feel pressured to do anything than what the record shows. So let the record show that the April minutes need to be revised to show that Commissioner Morgan voted yes
but wants to abstain.
on
Thank you.
the resolution -17.
Okay.
And that this meeting, he's stating that that was not his intent. He meant to abstain. And you read that into this meeting's minutes.
Yes, I'm aware. Thank you.
Thank you.
And I,
Go ahead.
and I think Robert's Rule of Order also suggests that we unanimously accept his position as a board.
That's correct.
For
That's right.
clarification, because I saw that on the email, I don't know anywhere where we're governed by Robert's Rules of Order. And so we continue to refer to that, but, so, what I would say is, we'll ask Ms. James's opinion on what's acceptable. I'm not trying to, it's fine if she says it's required to have, unanimous consent, and the reason this stuff about Robert's Rules of Order continues to kind of eat at me a little bit, I'm not a parliamentarian, I don't know what Robert's Rules of Order say in every case, and so that's why, that's just my.
And on that note, our bylaws really doesn't give us any guidance
Got it.
on whether Robert rules is what the board chooses to proceed with. So it'll be up to the board to determine if that's how you want to, or
The
otherwise,
issue came up in our review of the bylaws.
right, or otherwise, if you want to set your own policies, which you have the authority to do, or abide by Robert, so that's your discretion.
It's,
Thank
it,
Go ahead.
it was my understanding initially that that was what we were
Approach.
abiding by, the Robert's Rule of Order, and that also the city council uses Robert's Rules.
But if you
Wait a
look
minute,
at how
I'm just,
city
I'm
council
quoting.
goes
I'm
about
quoting. I'm not,
making a motion, that's not how we do it.
I'm just stating what I was told in this meeting, that we would govern ourselves by
Robert's rule.
Robert Rule of Order.
And
And then
then
if we want to change that, we can, but,
I would hope we wouldn't.
we had no other, thoughts. But that's the way I've been operating,
That's right.
my whole period here.
And any organized body will defer to Robert's Rules of Order.
And all-
Implied, they will refer to Robert's Rules of Orders. And I really would not want to see an organization that does not respect Robert's Rules of Order.
Well, we do it every week or every month, so.
No, what we've done here has
Been-
actually been in compliance with Robert's
Robert
Rules.
Rule of Order.
Until the situation with, and let me just say this, even making the motion can be a conflict as well as taking the vote. We have to be very careful with when we are so quick to so move and then do a second, because you need to stop, think, are there any relationships that could be construed as being a conflict of interest? This is serious.
Well,
And I want the best for our commissioners. I don't want to see any commissioner get in a situation
appreciate that.
where they're gonna have to be investigated.
Okay.
And as we know, it happened in Virginia Beach. And it can happen here.
And other places too.
Yeah, okay, You're right, appreciate that. Commissioners, you have the minutes before you? Standing and ready?
I made the motion with the corrections, so we just need a second.
Second.
Okay, Madam Secretary?
All right. Commissioner Jiggets?
Yes.
All right. Apologize. Commissioner Lalonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Washington?
Yes.
And Chair Smith.
Yes.
All right.
Old business, cooperative agreement between Perry and the City of Port St.
Just one notation. I put it in the correspondence because we don't have a tab for old business, so I put it in tab 13. That's where a copy of the cooperative agreement is.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Bland?
Cap 13.
Well,
Yes,
I
sir.
I just went ahead and put it in there, because it was asked to be put in for old business, so I don't have any comments on it.
It's there.
It is what it is.
So I guess my question is, do we remit to the city annually?
Do we what?
Remit that 20,000?
We have a,
That's why I thought we were prepared to have Attorney James talk about it with us. Because,
well, the only way, the housing authority can't change the corporate agreement. Now, you got a work session coming up with the city council in October. So it can be on the agenda then, because the housing authority does not have the authority to change this. But what you can do in that work session, you can have this on as a talking point with some ideas of what you would like to see, any amendments to it, because initially, the first one was done in 1940, if I remember, then they did a change in 1956. So I would say to you, read this one and what you have here, make some notes, and we can put those together for, when we had that work session with the city council in October, we can have this as a talking point then if you have any concerns in reference to it.
okay, that's unacceptable, but go ahead.
Yeah, I think that Commissioner Jiggets was just asking, are we in compliance with the agreement? And, you know, as far as what the terms of the agreement are.
I would say we are in compliance with the agreement based on the two properties, because really it only related to two properties, which was Dale and Swanson. Those were only two. That when you look at Exhibit A and B. Now you might would say that you would assume that anything you build after that point in the spirit would also be under that too. But once again, the city would have to incorporate those in there, and you can probably ask the city, and you have a work session to look at that to see how to bring the other ones and other property under that same umbrella.
Okay, Mr. Bland, that is unacceptable, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because when I asked you all to come prepared to discuss it, and that's what we need. We need you, attorney to tell us, are we in compliance with this document? From what I read, it says PRHA is supposed to remit to the city annually. I think it's 20,000, 10,000 for one property, or 15,000, or something like that. But I need you all to please come prepared at the June meeting to lay this out, to tell us, are we in compliance with what this agreement says, or are we not? Or maybe the city of Portsmouth owes us some money. We need to know that too.
Or have we paid too much money?
Or have we paid too much money? But we need, Attorney James, we need you and Mr. Bland to come and lay this out. What the agreement says, whether or not we're in compliance. Who owes who what? Because what I read says the housing authority is supposed to remit 20,000 to the city of Portsmouth annually. Something having to do with the, not the water, but the I think it's the sewage, something like that. So, we need to take this seriously. We've been asking about it for the last 3 months.
Okay, let me just say this, Ms. Jiggins, and I'm not going to disrespect you or anything like that. This is an issue that I think, to be fair to the housing authority and to the city, is to have this as a talking point at the October board meeting. Because once again, it would give them an opportunity to look at it, because the attorney, Attorney Solomon, have a copy of it. And I'm sure he's the attorney for the city.
Someone Solomon Ashby, Attorney Ashby.
He have a copy of it, but I think that, to be fair to the housing authority, to the city, when we have our joint meeting, this can be a topic of discussion at that particular time.
How can you have a topic of discussion? We don't know what we're going to discuss, how to discuss it from a legal standpoint.
But once again, what I will do, I will have our attorney to reach out to the city attorney, and the two of them can look at it jointly, and over the next few months, they can come up with what they think need to be changed in it, or anything.
Okay, that's very suspicious to me. I don't know what the pushback is. I don't understand. Attorney James is very well respected and has the capability to look at this document just to tell us from our perspective, are we in compliance with the city or are we not? Or is there something that the city owes us? And I don't understand this pushback. I really don't. This is a legal document, and we should be able to have our legal attorney advise us on it without waiting until October the 21st.
Point well taken. Commissioner?
I believe that the $20,000 refers to a service charge that was in here, that is the maximum amount of money that the housing authority may or may not owe to the city. The bigger issue, I think, that we discussed this in the governance when we were talking about the bylaws, was that there are some properties that could be construed as the authority does not owe real estate taxes to the city. Yet, I think it has been our practice for a long time that we do pay the city taxes, although we are, I think, in some ways not obligated to do so.
We do.
So I would tend to think that if the city thinks we're in violation of something, they will let us know about a service charge, but we're also paying them taxes. We're not required to do either, so.
Okay. And your point's well taken, but I think a bigger issue has to do with the entire document, as well as my question about the 20,000. For me, that's the bigger issue. And so, since there are bigger issues coming from different commissioners, we don't need to wait till October 21st to have the discussion. We need to know what's in the document from a legal standpoint. Sure, I can read it. But I think this is something where our attorney for the housing authority will willingly want to go ahead and explore the document and to make a report to us at the June meeting. I don't understand this pushback. This is very suspicious.
Ms. Jiggy, it's not a pushback.
What is it?
It's not a pushback.
Then why not June meeting?
I'm not saying June, I'm just saying that I just said to you, if you listen,
I did listen.
You sure?
I'm sure, because I'm an excellent listener.
No, you're not.
Yes, I am.
Okay, well, I'm gonna say it then.
Then say it.
What I'm saying to you is that our attorney will get with the city attorney to go over this document, and once they have finished, then then our attorney can come back to the board after the two of them get together to say whether we need to make any changes or whether we're in violation of anything, whether the city is in violation of anything.
And let me respond. We have been asking this to be done for the last 3 months. And you, Executive Director Bland, have refused.
I have not refused anything.
Why wasn't it on the agenda?
Okay, this is what I want to know. And I need to know this from the board. After our attorney get with the city attorney, bending on the timeline, how soon does the majority of the board want a response back to this?
Like 2 months ago.
Chair.
Like 2 months ago. That's when we asked for it.
What would y'all like to see a response from this, board members,
By the end of the summer.
by the end of the summer?
Okay.
End of the summer?
Okay, thank you.
Bruce?
Bruce?
Well, I just
You
want to
the
make
one
sure,
raised
I
it.
just want to make sure I understand what I'm looking at here. We've got the 1956 agreement that you gave us. Then all of a sudden I got a letter from 1950. So,
That was the initial.
yeah, but the,
You asked for it when? Last month? For the update, or you asked for it? Who asked for the
No, I
update?
didn't
Before I
ask for
did.
it.
One of you all
didn't
did. We've been asking for an
Yeah.
update explanation on
I mean, this is not the first conversation we've had.
No, it's not.
When did you ask for it?
2 months ago.
But, I mean, when and who?
March meeting,
Who asked for it?
I
Well,
asked for
Okay,
it.
there we go.
Commissioner Washington asked for it.
I don't remember the exact month that this was presented to us, but, whatever it was, and I wasn't here during the last month meeting.
No,
Uh-huh.
I
But
was.
it was before last month meeting, and I know I stated
Okay. Mm-hmm.
that I had some questions
That's right.
regarding this agreement. And as a result of that, we gave copies to
Everybody.
the city council to get, she was gonna take it to the city
There we
council
go. That
and make them
answer.
aware of it. But in addition to that, we
Mm-hmm.
wanted to have it on the agenda so that we as a board member could agree on whatever was within the documents.
Exactly.
Because there were some questions about this since it was dated
That's
eons and
correct.
years ago. And I will also say that Mr. Bland, we part of the reason why we gave it to her, because we said, and
It's
not
legal.
trying to be difficult with anybody, the city might not even been aware of this agreement. So the goal was not to beat anybody up,
Absolutely not.
because this board was made aware that this document existed. We didn't go, did you go find it, Bruce? Okay. But now that we have it, we have to review it. That was the spirit that I spoke on it.
And I'm gonna tell you what it came out of. It just came back to me. When we had that Saturday work session. It was a Saturday work session, and it came up the first time. And then subsequent to that,
Oh, yes, it did.
yes, and then subsequent to that, March and April, it was requested. And to me, it's ridiculous to give until the end of the summer, because that makes me wonder what is really going on here. And again, Mr. Bland, the question is, why are you pushing back on
Let's
this?
not,
Mr. Jiggy, I'm not pushing back on it. I'm just saying that it's a legal document, and our attorney will get with the city attorney to go over that legal document, and it may take them a while to try to digest to figure what's in there or what changes that they can recommend to the city council. So when we come together in October, we can know what changes we can make.
Then my question is, why did you not follow through when the request was made of you in March and April, and I copied Attorney James on it,
yeah, to do what?
about the document, explaining it to us, exactly what it says.
Because because the document was given to the liaison from the vice mayor got a copy of the document. She was going, and she said she want to take it back to
Council.
to the council. That's what she said at the last meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Well, her taking it back to the council doesn't have anything to do with our responsibility over here in terms of knowing if we're in compliance with this document or if the city's in compliance. That's the whole issue. And we needed to have a report from our attorney discussing this document. And it's now been 3 months. And now, a couple commissioners says, well, by the end of the summer. And again, I stand by my statement. That makes no sense. This is important.
I personally read the document
I read
over
it
the
too.
past week, and I don't see anything alarming about the document considering it was written 63 years ago.
That's right.
And so the issue is more of every housing authority has a document like this, a cooperation agreement between the authority and their city, governing how the city and the public housing authority interact regarding taxes, regarding services provided, regarding whatever. Now, we've talked about trash pickup services, we've talked about various topics
Sewer
which are
lines.
part of this agreement, and that's what that's part of that $20,000, but we pay for a service. Now, we have, in our case, looked at those services and determined that it was too expensive for the city to do it, so we chose a different vendor to provide those services to us. Where we pay taxes on some of the properties we have. I don't see anywhere in this document where we're in violation of anything.
We're not.
And so it seems like an exercise that just takes up a whole bunch of time in our staff time and everything else, and then it takes up board time because we sit here and talk about it every couple of months in a meeting for like an hour. And it's not, it's a governing document, but it's pretty basic.
As I respond to that, everything you're saying is in theory. You don't know for a fact as far as if we as a housing authority are in complete compliance. And I'm not going to belabor it other than to say this. It's a legal document.
It is.
And we need to know if we are in compliance as a housing authority. And we need to know if the city is in compliance. That's what you call full disclosure, not trying to cover up anything. We're just trying to know the facts.
Thank you. Hold on. Shannon.
I just want to make a comment on at least the 1956 document, pages 1 through 5, where it's referencing the pilot, which is the payment in lieu of taxes. And I just want to say that we are in compliance. So basically what it does is they ask us for all of our public housing sites, you take your shelter rent, minus any of your utilities that we pay, which is electric, sewer, the stormwater fees, subtract that off, and then you figure 10% of that shelter rent, and we remit that to the city. And yes, we do take care of that every, once a year. So we figure it calendar year, and then we remit it the following year.
So are you saying that the document, the 1950 document,
The 1956.
the 1956
Yeah, we're
document,
talking about the pilot, yes, we are.
is that the only thing in the 56 document that is a question? And what about the other documents?
Now, the one with the
1950?
sewer, I have not ever received any documents or any invoices from the city, because they are now, charging us stormwater fee invoices that we pay every quarter. So, on some of those properties, it's actually less than $20,000, so.
Yeah, but we need to
But it's
get our
not-
arms
Okay,
around
I
it.
just wanted you to know that at
Yeah,
least on
and I
that
appreciate
path,
that.
we are in compliance with the city on that.
On the one thing,
On the
but
payment
not,
in lieu of taxes, yes, the pilot,
On
and
the
then
pilot.
also on the stormwater fees, but they have not been charging us anything on any sewer. I mean, we do get charged from the city on our sewer bills, and we are taking care of that. We do pay those sometimes we're billed monthly, sometimes it's every 2 months.
well, it sounds to me like, with you and Attorney James getting together, you can together bring us back the concrete information. Because we don't want to wake up one day and find out that we've been neglecting paying our obligations to the city or vice versa.
Next item.
Did we already did the, okay, we did the minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did the minutes.
Did you vote on the minutes?
Did we vote on it?
I abstained because, did I
Yeah, you
abstain?
did abstain, you voted.
Because,
It should be abstained.
did I?
Yeah, you said
Okay.
yes, but after thinking, that's why I let the chair know.
Well, let's
So we
do
can
it.
handle it now.
From last month's minutes, I said I was absent,
Yes, you
Right.
and I,
voted for it.
But you voted yes.
but I meant,
So just to be
Just
clear.
my intent was,
Yeah.
I was
That's
absent
what you
and
said.
I abstained.
Okay. So,
Although according to
But-
Robert's
but-
rules,
but
you
what
don't
I-
have to
but-
abstain
Yeah, I don't have to
when
abstain,
you,
Okay.
but,
yeah.
but I don't talk, so much has happened here, okay. I abstained, da-da-da, and then I said something about Robert's Rule of Order.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I did, because really, per Robert's rules, you don't have to be present to
To-
vote on the minutes.
Right.
That's the only thing, yeah. You don't have to abstain, in other words.
Okay.
Right,
we
our next
clear
order,
now?
our next, yeah, next order of business is finance. According to
Oh,
the
we didn't
state,
get
that's
to
what I
it.
got up there.
Did we get, we didn't get them, did we?
Reed and I met with Shannon, we need a couple more days to put
Okay.
the quarterly financials together. As the focus was on the annual audit, and we were very pleased with what Mr. Jump had to
Yeah,
say.
that was great.
Defer that to the next meeting.
Yeah, please, well, we expect to have them in y'all's mailboxes by Monday, Tuesday.
Okay.
And then Reed and I will meet separately with Shannon, and then we'll give whatever comments that we have about the financials.
Okey doke. Procurement,
That makes sense.
nothing. Housing,
Okay.
the resolution.
Commission, before you.
Oh, wait a minute, I'm so sorry. Did you say procurement?
Yes, ma'am, we ain't got nothing.
Yeah, but I got a question for procurement this time. I had gone on the website, PRJ's website, and I saw where in the past there had been a contract awarded to Town Bank.
Yeah.
And the stipulation for the financial services was that they had to have a branch in Portsmouth. And I was just wondering, because you know, that speaks to my focus on wanting to see stipulations. So however that contract came about, are we able to do other contracts where we can stipulate that, for example, with the carpeting or going forward, that the bidder has to have a location in Portsmouth? Because that's what the Town Bank Financial Services contract said that was online. And so can we stipulate that for other contracts?
No.
So how
We
we able
did
to
that because
stipulate?
it was banking services, we have to be able to, we have to be
Be
able
in
to make our
proximity.
deposits to the bank on a daily basis.
And that's the only way to get a stipulation for location?
Because anybody, like carpet, if you're gonna provide carpet, you don't have to have a store in Portsmouth to provide us carpet in Portsmouth. But it's more for our convenience to have a bank in Portsmouth, or I think sometimes we said some, like 15 miles, or we put a mileage, a range, so that we can do our banking without having to go 3 or 4 hours down the road.
And so you
So
feel
that's what
confident
we-
that's the only way we could stipulate is for banking services?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We also, when we had towing, we asked them to, be within a 25-mile radius, because if you're gonna tow us, we have a vehicle out, then we didn't want somebody to have to come from 100 miles away to, do that.
So you do stipulate for that then, for towing?
It's, because it's just a matter of, business for the authority, because we cannot have somebody stranded on the side of the road waiting for somebody to come 3 hours away. But for that type of service, there's no justification for saying you gotta have a store in Portsmouth to provide us carpet.
Okay, thank you.
Next order of business is housing, resolution 2019.
Commissioners, before you is resolution 2019-23, submission of a letter of interest for moving to work designation. HUD is allowing medium-sized housing authority to submit a letter by June the 12th, and it's just a letter of interest to become a moving to work agency. And we did have a small presentation to the board members that came
Tuesday, I believe it was, just to get some idea what MTW would be like. So this is just asking permission for the housing authority to submit a letter of interest. And if we get approved, then we would once again do that presentation to all the full board again on exactly what moving the work would be. And it's really just one of three cohort cohorts that housing authority will be participating in over 6 year period. Just for what her is trying to figure out how to do things different. One of those is tier rent, and some of them are like a 5% or 3%. So. We feel that you only have to be a high performance in one of our programs in order to be of interest, and we are high performers in our Section 8 program, we're standing in our public housing program. So we feel that this would be good for the Portsmouth Housing Authority as well as for our residents. And I think we had three commissioners to show up. Dr. Washington, anything you want to say in reference to what you got from the work session on MTW?
It was wonderful.
Okay. Bruce, anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was very pleased, very excited about it. If you remember, that's one of the things you promised to bring to us when we did the hiring. Also, I was very pleased because it was in concert with the application you said to us. I was very pleased that you'd already talked to the resident advisory board about it. I was very pleased that you already sent a letter out to all the residents, so I really appreciate all the communications. But this is definitely something that will help move us in the direction of getting people back to work within the housing, to stop the generational
Yes, sir.
generational housing that we have. It's kind of like a tough love type of thing, but it's a responsibility that we have to the folks that live in housing.
I call it good love.
Okay.
Chair Smith, anything? And just a bit of history, just a bit of history. I think this is so paramount with the two celebrations that are just happened in the city of Portsmouth. This coming tonight, it begins tonight, actually. The Fish Fry started at 5 o'clock. Truxton is celebrating its 100th anniversary. Truxton used to be a municipality all by itself. That the city built on the and imported African Americans into this area to work at the shipyard, not for self-sufficiency. I think that move to work program is perfect. It's a perfect fit in what's celebrated. Then Craddock, same principle, but it was for the white community. So just a compliment to this board in forward thinking, self-sufficiency, and what's needed in terms of what we're seeing happening in our city to take our city forward. Self-sufficiency is absolutely essential.
That's correct. And I would just like to say, although they are not celebrating, the Brighton community also originated because, and it blossomed during World War I, because persons establishing their homes in Brighton worked at the shipyard.
And it's for work, not for work.
They worked at the shipyard, that's right.
So thank you, Mr. Blaine. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, this is it's a phenomenal program. I think I know it's gonna change the face of our city and in public housing. And the best is yet to come. And I will say I'm glad to be a part of the board and this administration when it does go down. And I claim it already. We're gonna get it. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, keep in mind, it's very competitive, but like I said, it's just a letter of interest, and hopefully Portsmouth will be one of the housing authority that's selected as a demonstration program. So once again, just need a board approval for resolution 2019-23, submission of letter of interest for moving to work, MTW designation. That letter, we gotta get it to HUD by June the 12th.
Awesome, okay. Resolution 2019-23, submission of letter of interest for move to work designation. Here's the motion.
I move that we approve submission of the letter.
Second?
Thank you, Commissioner Roberts, and thank you, Commissioner Jiggets and Commissioner Washington. Madam Secretary?
All right, Commissioner Jiggets?
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Washington?
Yes.
And Chair Smith?
Yes. Development, Resolution 2019-24 is the resolution adopting the Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority's annual 2019-2020 and 5-year 2016-2020 agency plan. Ms. Winston, you got the floor.
You have to make that the power, doesn't it? It's not on. Yeah, now it's coming in.
Well, I didn't need it for this resolution, right now. So last month I came before you all to discuss the agency plan, and so you're just basically taking a vote on that. There we go. Okay, so I'm asking you all to vote to approve the, agency plan that was discussed and presented to you all last month. A presentation was made to the RAD board on May 9th. The comment period was a 45-day comment period, and that ended yesterday. I received no comments from the RAD board or any written comments from it regarding the agency plan. So, we just now have to take the official vote.
Okey dokey.
Yes, did you have any comments?
Alrighty, Resolution 2019-24, resolution adopting the Portsmouth Redevelopment Housing Authority's annual 2019-2020 and 5-year 2016-2020 agency plan.
So moved.
It's been
Second.
moved, been properly second. Thank you, Commissioner Morgan, Commissioner Roberts. Madam Secretary?
All right, Commissioner Jiggets?
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Washington?
Yes.
And Chair Smith?
Yes. Next resolution we have before us is Resolution 2019-25, resolution approving the amendment to the 2019 Capital Fund Annual Statement and authorizing execution of the 2019 Capital Fund Program Amendment to the Consolidated Annual Contribution Contract, the ACC.
So along with the agency plan, a portion of that, we couple our capital funds program with that as well. So this is for you all to approve the 2019 capital funds that we're receiving from HUD. You can see we received a little decrease in funds, about $282,000 this year. And primarily that's because of the vacancies in Lincoln Park. You know, we're demolishing Lincoln Park and we're relocating those families. So HUD has kind of made it a little bit easier for us this year and just kind of group things into categories. So you have your operations, which the max is 20%, management improvements is 10%, and admin is 10%. These are the max. And then everything else is grouped into what we call 1480, which is just general capital improvements for maintenance, repairs, and those type of things in the units. So that's what we're. We just need for you all to vote to
So
accept
moved.
these funds from HUD.
Second.
It's been moved and properly second. Madam Secretary?
All right, Commissioner Jiggets?
No unreadiness?
Yes.
Keep going.
Oh, okay. Oh, Commissioner Lalonde?
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan?
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts?
Yes.
Commissioner Washington?
Yes.
And Chair Smith?
Yes. Human Resources, reports.
Commissioner, before you use the April significant activity report, that was part of your package. Any question or anything that's in that report?
Mr. Blaine, thanks. I appreciate the executive director comments in there. It meant a lot.
I'm
Thank
sorry.
you. The director of activities,
Oh.
thank you very much. It meant a lot. It meant a lot. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Well, I did, I have a question about that, so.
Good.
In the activity, it said that you, Mr. Bland, and I think Ms. Winston and one other person, you met with the mayor. Is that correct? That was one of the activities that was showing?
Yeah, we meet with, not the mayor,
City manager.
What
the
did it
city,
say in the
the
activity?
city manager.
City manager.
Okay,
City manager, that's a monthly
We have a monthly standing
meeting.
meeting with the city
Manager,
manager,
senior staff.
economic development, city
Uh-huh.
attorney's office. So we meet monthly. Actually, it's next Tuesday of this month.
okay, and so what are the types of things that are discussed?
We discuss, the transfer, one of the topics is going to transfer of properties back to the EDA,
Uh-huh.
those CDBG properties, just upcoming projects that we're working on, and just keeping them in the loop and that type of thing.
At any point, the opportunity zones come up?
No.
Because that is very important, and even though they're not talking about Portsmouth, they're talking about Norfolk and Newport News. Portsmouth has opportunity zones also because of low income housing. I didn't know if some of these sales had to do with those purchasers knowing that they can turn that into an opportunity zone for IRS tax purposes. So it's definitely something that the Housing Authority needs to look into further, because I think that is what's creating even more interest in properties that are near where our residents reside, as well as any low-income sections of the city of Portsmouth. Thank you.
Thank you. Remarks, Mr. Bland.
Just a small handout, because I've been sending you guys stuff as I get it so you can read it. I see.
Thank you for not sending this in the mail.
But that just is another piece of paper on something that happened on the mall in June in Washington D.C. But beyond that, any question reference to the reading material you have received during the month that I had mailed out to you? Any question on any of the reading material updates? Okay. Beyond that, that's all I have.
Where are we on the agenda now?
Executive, right here.
We're down to comments.
15.
We're done with the-
No commissioner comments?
Okay, I think we need to plan, for a special meeting of the commissioners to, discuss and deal with the evaluation of the executive director and, discuss,
Contract?
his contract.
Absolutely.
You making that
I'll make that a motion that we set a
Second.
meeting.
Unreadiness.
Third.
Fourth.
Unreadiness.
Fourth.
Unreadiness, and my unreadiness is only this. If memory serves me correctly, when I read the contract, his contract automatically renewed on May 4th, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Mr. Bland, do you know about your own contract?
I've had to look at the language and.
What about you, Attorney James?
I don't have it in front of me. to
Yeah, I
give you
read it. I'm
correct.
pretty sure it automatically renewed
Yeah.
on May 4th. That's why I was pushing for us to have a meeting before that date, just so we could have constructive feedback with Mr. Bland. So even though what you're proposing, this is sort of after the fact, because the contract already renewed.
We still can do it.
Oh, yeah, we can do the feedback, but the contract automatically renewed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's been motion proper second, Madam Secretary.
All right, Commissioner
And third.
Commissioner Jiggets,
Yes.
Commissioner Lalonde.
Yes.
Commissioner Morgan,
Yes.
Commissioner Roberts,
Yes.
Commissioner Washington,
Yes.
and Chair Smith.
Yes. So what we'll do is, we will reach out to Ms. Alyssa here to get a date so we can do our special call meeting. Alrighty.
And that's a personnel matter, so I'll
Yes.
be here for
Yes, yes, ma'am, that's a personnel matter. They can step out there, it would just be us. Commissioner Morgan.
Sorry, one quick question. Where do we stand with the meeting time?
5 o'clock.
It's still actually on the floor. We never voted on it either way. I sent out the, what is it, the Survey Monkey,
yeah.
and the majority was 9 in the morning, but I thought it had to be voted with the board.
No, that's right, I think that's what I was
Okay.
kinda asking.
But I did receive majority was for the morning meeting.
No,
So the-
actually, it wasn't.
It was, I can pull it up right
Chapman.
now.
Commissioner Chapman had not voted at that point. She never voted on survey, but she told us at the last meeting she wanted to keep it at 5 because of her work schedule, and that made
Well, she's
it,
not here to speak for herself, so I guess we can just table it to the next meeting.
Well, we can do that,
Yeah.
but she did make that comment in the meeting.
Yes.
Well, according to the Survey Monkey that I sent out, it's official. I can print off the results. The
Yeah, but you
majority
didn't have
was
100% response though, right? I'm pretty sure Commissioner Chapman did not respond, because she said she didn't But I know because of her work schedule, she wants to keep it at 5.
Chair.
Yes, ma'am. Any other commissions?
Yes, sir. Just, I'm gonna talk a couple points, but there was a couple emails I sent to the commissioners. Just my point. If it's the way I'm used to, what do you want to call it, Bruce's Rules of Orders? If I send an email to you, at least acknowledge that you got
Exactly,
it.
Yeah.
exactly.
If you're a copy
Yeah.
two, it's meant to be a copy two,
Mhm.
right? So if I could at least get that courtesy that if you got an email from me, if
We
you
have
agree or disagree with
knowledge.
it, we can discuss that offline, but at least acknowledge that you got it. The
That's
gang
right.
youth violence thing, I've been getting the heck beat out of me in town. Craddock Civic League meeting, the walkthrough at Dale Homes, the, where else was I? Waterview Civic League meeting. It continues to come up, and again, we hit the papers every single month, and it's Swanson and it's Dale. The chief walked through Dale because of shots that were heard in Dale. Swanson, it's the police, I attended a police athletic league Explore meeting. The meeting was an hour and a half about the gangs, and they had pictures of people in Swanson. I mean, they even have their pictures. I know I've brought up a couple times, we have got to do something. I feel, the answer I always get is the police are gonna be taking care of that, and the police are gonna be taking care of that. Well, I just don't feel comfortable that I'm giving this to somebody else, all right? I don't know what the right answer is. I guess that's why I'm putting on with you, Mr. Bland, because you are in this business, you don't want me to give you the answer, all right? At least the answer I have, But, man, I can't go, I just hate reading about cars that are broken into, drug offenses. I mean, I'm gonna assume behind the scenes that these people have been taken out of their houses. When it's in the
Do they
paper
live
that they
there?
have drug offenses. Huh?
Do they live there?
Well, that's what I'm just making an assumption that y'all are doing
Can I
something
speak to
with
that?
this. Well,
Please do.
Majority of the kids that come out in neighborhoods do not live there. It's somebody coming from somewhere else, and they might be on the voucher, or their
Well,
parents might be.
then what are we
Can I-
doing about it? All right, then what are we doing about
All
it?
right.
Because I can't, while you acknowledge that's the problem, then what are we doing to fix the problem? Because everybody tells me, everybody's admiring the problem.
Okay.
So what are we doing to solve the darn thing? So that's why I've sent out the, if the police are telling me it's our neighborhoods, if the neighborhoods are telling me it's our neighborhoods, if everybody in town is saying it's our neighborhoods, then I feel that we should do something. And we come to this every time, we put up all the statistics. I'm just asking, what are we doing other than saying it's somebody else's problem, let the police go fix it?
Well, I'd like to weigh in on it and give you a suggestion, and that is security cameras erected on the light
We
poles.
do have security cameras.
Well, are they everywhere in Dale and Swanson?
They're throughout the developments. And to Commissioner Lalonde, when there are children that are from our developments, we take care of that. But as Commissioner Smith said, majority of the time, these are kids that's coming from Norfolk, Virginia Beach, that are in gangs that have nothing to do with our children.
I got it. Then let's
So,
put up,
but
let's
we
make
can
them gated,
address
let's make them
those
gated
issues.
communities then. I don't know. Everybody here has a solution, okay?
Well,
I just want to know that when I go to bed at night, that we've done everything we can to protect those kids that are in that neighborhood.
And maybe it's
All right?
more cameras.
We've talked about more concern about somebody got burned on a stove, all right?
But that is
Than we have
the
about
point.
somebody that's getting killed, all right, in one of our housing units, okay? That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm asking is that for leadership, just to say, okay, this is what we're going to do, all right, that's all. Because I don't know what we're doing, all right? I walked Dale Homes with the chief, and I'm gonna put that there too. Here we had 20 police officers walk through one of our neighborhoods, and there was nobody from PRHA walking there with the chief. And I don't understand that.
entrance.
I don't understand that.
We didn't know they were going out there.
We didn't know.
Oh, come on, I called you, Mr.
No, but at the
Bland.
same time.
I called you, Mr. Bland, so don't tell me
No,
nobody didn't know.
But Bruce,
Okay?
Maybe you're not
And-
listening,
And the
Bruce.
person, your manager was there, and I asked her if she was gonna walk through, and she said no also, and she knew. All right, that thing was posted about a week and a half before that the chief was doing a walkthrough at Dale Homes. All the residents knew, so How has the leadership been though?
Because we took a walk through, we was in Virginia Beach at the VACA conference.
Sir, you know,
It was the same day of the VACA
Mr. Bland,
conference.
I got the answer from you.
Yeah.
Okay, we didn't care enough to go.
That's
Okay, I
not
got
true.
it. All right. For 3 months now, I've been asking about the investments. I was told at this board meeting, we were gonna talk about investments. All right? I haven't heard a briefing about the investments. All I ask, if we're gonna push it off, just say, hey, we're gonna push it off because of something else is going on. All right? That's all I got.
That's not all, okay.
Excuse me, I gotta put you on the spot, Vice Mayor.
Yes, sir.
What can we do to work with the city to get this thing rectified that Commissioner Lalonde brought to our attention? I'm speaking now as a commissioner, as a resident, man, you being my vice mayor and all.
Exactly. Well, you know, the city is, we facing our own, issues with, you know, the police department. There's an FBI investigation that, you know, has everybody kinda on edge on, you know, where they step, where they walk, where they, you know, communicate, conversate. Is definitely something that we could bring, you know, to our agenda as being a concern. It is a concern for us too, you know, because the last two reports that we got from the city manager, you know, the shootings that occurred, you know, on public housing, you know, property.
And happen to be
And
somebody from a whole
so,
nother city.
you know, and then it's,
Yeah.
you know, turns out not someone that don't even live in our city. So, you know, there are some concerns that we need to address. I mean, you're saying chief, the police chief, the chief of police, right now is still an interim, chief of police. And, you know, we want answers if, you know, we even gonna keep her as the interim chief of police, or are they gonna do a national search, or, you know, there's just, you know, we're all over the place with where we are.
Security.
So if it's something that you want us to take back, we can definitely have a conversation,
Would you please?
about it, we can.
I guess the only other question I have about security, do they have ID cards? That would be a suggestion I would make then, that everyone who is a resident of the various residential places have an ID card, a picture ID card. That would be my recommendation to Mr. Bland, if you think it is deserving of merit.
One of the things I just want to say that I think may be helpful in helping us address the gang issues in our communities is that we've had out for a while our safety and security officer. That position has been vacant for a while. And so that person has, you know, was very instrumental in working with the police as a liaison. It has so happened to be for the past two positions, they were former police officers. So they had that relationship and that connection with former police officers. We don't have that position. It's open now. We're looking for, you know, applicants, and I think we've interviewed some folks as well. So I think once we get that position filled, then that will help aid in that.
It's gonna be one position or two?
It's one. And so they'll work directly with the police. And it, you know, and the police also has their own gang task force as well.
Right.
So the
I know,
previous
I'm aware of
person in
that.
that position worked very closely with that gang person, under the police department. So, I think we see a little void now because we don't have that position filled. But I do expect, you know, once that is, you know, come back
filled,
on,
yeah.
I think it.
And I think those ID cards is the way to go.
Did we, I had a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Did we also suggest that we would have, policemen living in these subdivisions? What happened to that?
They had a vacant unit that
We did make it available.
We,
I didn't know what was the end of the story.
we did offer
Stake it
that,
out.
to the previous, police chief here. She didn't have anybody who was interested in the public housing. Now, in a tax credit property, we can't pull a unit offline for that.
No, we have to get permission and it's.
No,
They're-
but,
they're-
so there's only two communities right now they could live in, which is, actually Swanson and Seaboard, public housing. No, not, only one, Swanson. But the tax credit property, is, you can't pull a unit offline for that.
Now,
But we were looking at doing a substation, remember?
A substation, that was the other thing.
That's
It's
the-
at
Well-
39 Buchanan.
But it's not really a substation, because by saying it's a substation, then that means the police officer had to be there to man it. So it's
We're
not a
just fooling
substation.
people, just for us, you
It's
know.
a place where the police are able to go in and do their, do the paperwork and pass through and stuff like that, but it's not a substation.
Just presence.
Yeah, so it's where you would see police cars in and out of Swanson.
That would be good.
You know, where they'd be stopping in that particular facility to do paperwork and other stuff like that.
Yeah,
So,
that-
so they have that,
I don't think
they
we're
have,
gonna
they
do
have that
in the
unit now.
offices.
We have that?
Yeah.
Thank you. I have a couple.
Go ahead.
Solution focus. I said this before the meeting, but I want to say it during the meeting. Frederick and Deep Creek, that junkyard over there, when we are erecting these excellent new homes over in Lincoln, doesn't make our property very attractive. Perhaps we can have a discussion with the city council about the need to get rid of those
Blight.
rusting buses, rusting police cars, rusting fences, and grounds unkept, where we are erecting these magnificent homes for our residents.
Is it your
Frederick and
property or
Deep Creek.
ours? Is it our property?
I don't know who it is.
Private
It's
property.
Private.
Right on the
No,
corner.
private
Private
property.
property, yeah.
Yeah, but it's
But I
a
mean-
junkyard over there. It doesn't help to beautify our city.
That's grandfather, yeah.
And in terms of old business, I can want to say something about the mold. We haven't had a recent update, but I'm sure that's forthcoming about what's going on with that, because we get ready to get in the heat of the city.
Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay. And another old business thing that hasn't happened is we requested that the minutes have one of 12 pages, one of 6 pages, one of typed at the bottom of the minutes, so that we will know how many pages we have to our minutes and other documents. We requested that a long time ago. I'm just gonna say it again. Requested again. Trips and training, I had it, but I left it home. A couple of those trainings I wanna go to, I want to attend.
The Boston one?
I'll get back with you on that, maybe tomorrow. And I did go to the Narrow Conference. It was excellent in Virginia Beach.
Bacado.
Narrow, Bacado, I was there. It was excellent. I'm just,
Why was it excellent?
huh?
Why was it excellent?
The information, the presentation, the organization was just absolutely superb, and I learned too much to tell you all about it, but make an appointment with me. It was superior. I was talking with a couple of people today about that. And trips, training, I'll do that. And I think that's it.
Yes, I do have a couple of things. You know, it's been a lot in the national news about the spread of measles, and I wanted to know if there is any criteria that requires the residents and their children to have updated inoculations.
Not from HUD. HUD does not have that type of oversight.
Well,
Which means a housing authority cannot demand that of children to be vaccinated.
or the adults.
Correct. We don't have that authority.
And I guess I think Attorney James about the health director, something that she might could weigh in on that, because it's serious, it's important. People living in closed environments. The measles epidemic has taken on a new life of its own. And I just wanted to see this board and the housing authority get in front of it and not have to be reactionary with it. And I'm actually shocked that that is not a criteria about having updated shots to live in our resident housings. So that was the one thing that I had on my list. And in terms of moving to
Commissioner
work.
Jiggets,
Oh, I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor.
No, I was addressing,
The
the
measles.
request about having any kind of inoculation or any kind of health change, birth control, anything is HIPAA violation, and you can't, people, just because they live in public housing don't mean that their rights are taken away, and that would be a
Yeah.
violation of their rights to
Well, I guess
request that they
Get
have the
shots.
measles.
get shots, take birth control, get, any
Well,
of those
I
kind
don't
of
see it as
things.
taking
Have
away
two
their
babies.
rights because you're probably too young to remember this, but when I was a child, they did mass inoculation. They had us right over at IC Norcom High School, and we got two forms. We got the polio shot, and then we got the sugar cube. At that
I remember
time.
some of that.
You
but
remember some
the
that you were-
HIPAA violations.
Yeah, but I
weren't
don't
on there.
think, I might be approaching it the wrong way, but I don't think it would violate HIPAA if they decide, they being the Surgeon General decides it is a national epidemic and that steps have to be taken. That's why I was wondering if, Chair, if you thought maybe we could have the health director at one of the meetings on the agenda just to speak about it.
Yeah, that's her expertise. I mean, she can touch on it, but again, she might say the same thing we say. You can't just, you can't just impose.
Well, not the imposing part, but her stance on the concerns about it spreading, because it is spreading.
Awareness issue.
Yes, sir, go ahead,
Yeah.
Mike.
Say, I'm on the board of the Churro.
And
And
where
that
you're-
would be a violation of fair housing
Thank
rights.
you.
Fair
Say
housing.
that again.
I'm on, the Community Housing Resources Board.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I'm on the board, regional board,
Mhm.
and we basically oversee fair housing. And that would be considered a violation against fair housing.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm coming at a different perspective now, wanting to see if we could have the health director to speak before us about it now becoming a national epidemic, the measles. And what she might with,
But you want the residents to know, but I
Yeah.
think you already
Could I make a
have a
suggestion?
partnership that you're
I
doing
know.
with the
We
health
do?
department and.
do we?
They did a-
Yeah, we have a site,
So they could speak to.
F. Swanson.
Okay.
The health department has a site at Swanson Home and
Yes.
Dales.
So they could-
That-
Okay.
That's what I
okay.
was gonna suggest, that maybe we could have our Portsmouth Health, officer, director, speak to, maybe bring in and have sessions at
Educate.
some of our community centers to discuss things like
Yeah.
that with parents
Yeah.
or
With the
something like
residents.
that, you know?
But we
Something like
did,
that.
but your point is well made, because we did have on a Saturday meeting, the health department do a presentation. I hope it was this meeting, or one of the meetings I go to, about the general health of the population of this, in the city of Portsmouth, without directing it at the PRHA, because we would be in, we'd get in serious trouble in trying to.
Well, that's why I
Skip it to
redirected
the-
it to informational purposes about the measles epidemic, because it is a serious problem.
But your point is well made, well taken.
It's always. I think, there was one other thing, in terms of the moving to work, I did have an informal conversation with someone who is high up in a company, and she informally is very interested in partnering with the Housing Authority in this moving to work initiative. So I did want to share that with you all. And that, the only other two things I will say, I know you voted it down at the last meeting about having two commissioners on what I refer to as a procurement committee. I still think that is the way to go. So that is my comment on that. And my last comment is, when we think about the issues of security, and maybe this is something, maybe sometimes it's a certain way you deliver the message to our housing residents, and that is so many different things can impact on your quality of life. For example, mail delivery. There are certain routes and this is not, I'm saying throughout the city, any city, there are certain routes that mail carriers do not want to bid on because of the crime.
They won't deliver pizzas either.
They won't deliver pizzas either. I happen to live in one of those neighborhoods. It's very hard to keep a mail carrier because they won't bid on the route. They don't. They can bid on whatever routes they want to, and I don't blame them for not wanting to bid on a route where they feel that their safety is at risk. So I share that, and then the last comment, I guess would be from Ms. Winston, and that is, would it be a violation to even put a reminder on the website about making sure your inoculation records are up to date, or would that be a violation too?
That's a health department
Yeah, I
initiative.
think I don't think that would be a good idea.
You don't think that would be to even remind people to make sure they're inoculated?
But what we could do is look at, we have a health, center in Swanson Homes, and so we could, present some education, or have the health department come out and provide a workshop or training.
And yet it's
with
okay for
residents,
the
but-
school board, the school system to require it.
Mm-hmm.
So they can violate HEPA.
No, they
They
don't.
have to sign.
They don't. They have
They have to
nurses.
sign documents and everything.
Yeah, they got nurses and
Yeah,
staff.
well, as long as, I figured since, the schools could do it, that there was a way for us to do it.
No.
But okay,
Yeah, I
so
don't-
we'll just
I think
rely on the
that's-
schools.
Yes.
And if, we can talk with the health department and see if they'd be willing to do some type of
I
educational
would
training.
talk to them.
You will talk to them?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you, that's it for
Well,
my
just say that
comments.
the
Oh.
Schools don't follow the federal
Right.
rules
Yeah.
that
Exactly.
we do as the housing organization.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry, repeat that again?
I'm saying that the schools don't follow the federal rules that we do as a housing agency. They're gonna follow the state. They're not subject to fair housing, those type of, laws.
Okay, thank you for that.
I need to say thank you to, Mr. President, Mr.
Go ahead.
Chairman.
Go ahead.
A couple of people approached me from our community, and I sent a couple letters with their information to us, and we responded so well to them. The issue was, those issues were resolved. I need to say thank you to Mr. Bland and Mr. Bland to your staff.
Did they have to do with the grass cutting?
I can't, I think one was, but the other one was something else. But I just, in my humble opinion, you guys handled that and got me off the hot seat.
So the grass did get cut?
Yes.
Is that correct? Okay.
Yes, the grass got cut.
Thank you. That's it for me, I don't know.
All right,
what
great.
else.
Okie dokie. All right, we've been the public speakers, 5 minutes to speak, and we don't, okay. Correspondence, we already did that, right, Mr. Blaine? Okay, upcoming PRHA events, I have nothing to say, keep up the great work. Forest Redevelopment Housing Authority Education Foundation Scholarship Brunch on 5/24, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Elizabeth Mountain Country Club.
God bless
You
you.
know, business? Chairs need a motion, Jen? Okay,
Second.
all right.
Third,
Thank you.